Welcome. My name's Sue Gaskell Barlow, and I welcome you to one of my lives on spirituality. I have lots of titles. I prefer to just say I am. I am me from a position of love. I have learned to unprogram my self-talk from fear-based, shame-based, blame, shame, punishment, guilt, control, man-made perception of love and spirituality, back to the place of pure love, a loving heart, a loving spirit. And once you're in that place, everything changes. It's like scales are taken from your eyes and you see everything in a different light. I'd like to invite you to listen with an open mind to whatever I am going to say. I never know what I'm going to say, and it comes from the heart and from my spirit. And I felt drawn today to talk about life, about losses, about faith, and about hope. Our very existence, why we're here on earth. We're spirit and we're in a physical body. The spirit is pure love, which is fractured at birth, L-shaped fracture, and edging God out. Ego becomes the programming emotionally, psychologically, physically, mentally, that we live our lives in, believing that's who we are. And I'm so happy to tell you that's not the truth. That story is not who you are. Those are the coping devices that you have learned. They are prejudices and perceptions that you may or may not believe. As I invite you to be curious about who you are. Be curious about your journey. Look at a child born in amazement, looking around. Pure love, pure essence, part of the whole. And within 6 months, that little baby has programming, and then a year, on until about 7 years. And all of that child's programming is given to them by the peers and people around them. That was all of us. So wherever you were born in the world and however things happened, as a human being, the human condition, that's who you think you are. And then, or depending on the people around us, our value system, our belief system is born. And we can live our lives on automatic pilot in the subconscious, believing all of those things. Or we can wake up. We can actually wake up and be curious and start questioning, is that who I am? Or is that maybe a perception of who I am? And is there more to life than this? And that's when it becomes exciting. A small analogy that you may or may not be able to grasp, and if you do, that's brilliant, because if you're ready to grow, then you'll grow very quickly because of what I'm able to then talk to you about, guide you with from experience and also from this awakening. So 6 months old, baby sat in on the settee or in a high chair if that's where the child is up to. Doesn't matter the gender. And you go to feed the baby. So the food's on the spoon and you go to feed the baby and the baby goes coo and the food goes everywhere. Now, how do you respond? And how you respond will change the platform of that child's perception forever. Now, if you respond with whoops or a smile, the child is completely oblivious of anything other than he cooed. If you respond and say, oh, that's lovely, and talk to the baby, there's so many different ways. How about if you respond because you were ready to go out or just because, and the food goes everywhere. Not everywhere, bits go on you and all over the child. How are you going to respond? What if you said, "Oh, you naughty boy"? I hope I made you jump, because now that child, oblivious, is now has to respond and responds, and the excitement of the learning takes on board a new dimension of fear. And then, or depending how the child is spoken to for the rest of that little episode, can either psychologically and emotionally and mentally change the child, or the next time the child goes to eat, they are cautious, they're not sure how to respond. When they smiled before, everyone thought it was wonderful. And this time, all they did was this smile, as we know it, and you cooed, and you had this response. And so, if you've had enough of those and enough humiliations and situations, you grow to be fearful. If you have parents that are critical of themselves and you'll grow up to feel criticised. If people don't know how to educate via guidance and wisdom and love, then they will do what they learned and what they know, which is the best they can do. And if that's the case, then you'll be brought up on fear, on inadequacy, not feeling good enough, not feeling accepted. And then, because we want to fit in, you'll try and strive to get somebody's approval. You'll try and do things so that they'll like you. And you most definitely don't want to ever do anything to have that response of anger that you had experienced from the adult. And it's so, so sad that most cultures know and do that sort of behaviour. So by the time we're about 11, that's a time when mum and dad, even in a fear-based reality, and most of us, we do know about it, or if parents have been incredibly loving and given unconditional regard and taught and guided from that place, about 11, we need to say to our children, okay, we've done what we could. Now you've got to learn to make your own mind up. You've got to learn to have an opinion, understand that there are other people in the world, and we have to learn to be able to communicate, and learn to be able to have a win-win situation. However, if you've been brought up that this is good and this is bad, this is right and this is wrong, that's naughty, then we've got problems. Because if you've told your child you're naughty, the child takes it on board personally, and then their personal reality is there's something wrong with them. If you've said what you've done is naughty because we're not our behaviour, that's the pure, unconditional, loving person, and that's the behaviour which is not who we are, it's what we do. And if we find that that's not working and helping for our own relationship and with other people, then we can choose to look at it and change. And so we need to be curious. We need to take self-responsibility. And instead of saying, it's not your fault, I'm to blame, we could say, I take responsibility for that, with a desire to be more loving, more aware, more open. And so my journey, which was one of blame, shame and guilt, and everything was my fault, I grew up with that. And because I wanted people to like me, I'd do things for them so that they would like me. I wouldn't risk them being angry because that filled me with fear. And there were many, many different reasons that I took on board that everything was my fault. And of course, people were more than happy for me to do that. And it's taken 20 years to begin to make sense of why I had a breakdown when everything within me just shut down. And it was because I was looking after everybody else and I wasn't looking after me. And the little bit of love I got back was from people who were grateful because I helped them. And so my life's been one of long abuse. And the abuse was emotional, psychological. I've had physical, sexual, abuse of just about every kind, physical, verbal. And when you learn that, you use that, and you will have done some of that. And so I've had to work through why I did what I did, if it was working for myself and other people, and if it wasn't, how could I change? And so I've done years and years of boundary courses, anger management. I have self-awareness, a life coach qualifications to teach adults, and in relationships I've done up to diploma level on nutrition, on counselling. I've had an eating disorder, which was bulimia, anorexia, a battle with food, which was about control, needing to be in control, which spanned 30 odd years. I've written a book about that because one person said something to me when I was in my early 20s, just having a child, and the next day began a nightmare of 30, 40 years of thinking that there was something wrong with me because I'd kept a little bit of baby weight. And so I've learned and worked hard to get where I am. My spiritual journey, I've always had a beautiful, loving heart. We all have. I've always used it. And instead of blaming other people, I blame myself. So whatever happened, it was always my fault in my head. That being the case, then anybody could manipulate me because, and then when people shouted, because my experiences of being shouted at, humiliated in schools, all sorts of different situations. This is not a poor old me, it's factual. Then instead of being educated, I was humiliated. And so anybody could pull my strings, trigger, so that they could get the best that they could out of me for them. And of course, when push came to shove, they could very cleverly, very subtly turn it around so it must have been my fault. Because I had no opinion, I had no self-worth, I had no concept of that. I was just loving, so no protection, and so therefore it was obvious the way I was living my life. And while I was well, I was perfectly happy. I'd do anything for anybody. And in the end, thinking I could save the world and look after everyone's emotion, it was inevitable that my whole system broke down. And so became the long journey of getting myself right. There's no blame. There's no blame in my world. I've been able to understand why things happened, that I could change it, and now I live my life from a place of love, not fear. Sure, it clicks in every now and then as things become more and more in the moment for me, mindful awareness, and I'm able to resolve issues, take responsibility, and sometimes things happen externally that we have to stop and reevaluate what's happening within ourselves. What can I do to resolve this? How am I feeling? What are my thoughts? And another thing is, how old do I feel if I feel anxious? Because sometimes that subconscious fear-based reality that I live my life in is ever present, and sometimes that I click into that if situations arise that are really, really hard to deal with. And so I learn from each thing, and that's the whole point. When something happens, you accept, and then accept again. Accept the unacceptable. It's no good saying words like, I can't accept it, I can't believe it, because you're not believing it will make no difference to what's happened, can make every bit of difference to the way you handle things. So attitude is everything. Being mindfully aware is everything. And then coming out of the fear-based spiritual belief system and allowing love to be your guiding force and having a relationship with that loving energy within, there everything changes. And that's what's happened to me over the last few months with all the things that have been happening. It seemed like everything came to a head. And then in my life, somebody very, very special to me, very important, somebody I love and loved dearly, at 53, had a massive heart attack and died. Now, the relationship we have and had was beautiful. And the shock, the reality, and for the people that are left behind, it's huge. And it's as though somebody's lifted me up. Of course I've cried buckets, I've sobbed buckets. I've sent all the love in the world to the people that matter, wanting to know what I can do to support them. I don't say I feel sorry, that language isn't in me anymore. I accept and understand, and the sadness is indeed very real. Not for the person who's died, because we're spirit, we are eternal, and spirit never dies. So that spirit, that energy which leaves the physical body, is instantly on another dimension, all around us. Spirit never dies. So I know, as much as I will miss that person and her loved ones will, that in reality, within a few days, she's back with me. And it's like supporting, it's like guidance. And if you can have that faith and belief in love, we won't take it any further than that, in love. And that spirit of love is like an energy that grows and grows. We evolve that spirit and we grow in our physical human condition, so that the two things, the spirit, which is pure love, and the loving heart, can become one. And that's how you can live your life. And you see all the sadness, you understand it, you grieve it. We're all different. What we don't do is add suffering to that pain. And the suffering comes when we're blaming ourselves, blaming somebody else, blaming God, blaming the weather, blame. Because we're feeding then fear, which is a man-made perception and is not a reality of true love. So we're feeding that every time we stay in the blame-shame game. And there's a process to go through, and you can get to the place where I am, which is we turn up. We're here for a reason. When we're ready, when we've done the job we were here to do, then spirit moves on. Spirit never dies. And we're left to make sense of all of that. And so it's important that we have people around us that are loving, supportive, not someone who's trying to give advice, not someone who's trying to control and tell you what to do, not someone who's trying to make it better, not someone who's trying to jolly you out of your grieving process. Somebody who just gets it and understands, because they are love. And there is so much work to be done. There's a huge spiritual revival from a place of love, and the energy that we bring to the table, that we can send to our loved ones, no matter how near or far they are, then you can send them all the love in the world, pure love, with no judgment and no blame. And in doing that, then you don't feel so helpless, because feeling helpless is one of the hardest emotions that we can ever have. Sending all the love in the world to that person and remembering that you matter, and then hoping and praying that that person will understand and learn to reevaluate how they think and to begin to believe that they're here for a reason and that we're here to communicate with each other. And if you can honestly say, as I can on this occasion, I have no regrets whatsoever for anything that's happened in the journey with this beautiful lady. I'm 53 years of age. That everything happened for a reason, and that we learned, we talked, we understood, and we moved through that. And so our relationship and what we gave to each other is something I can smile about, even in my sadness at not actually seeing her again physically. And so I just wanted to let people know that there is spiritual healing, and I am proof of that. And it doesn't happen overnight. And it's good to think about getting the support of somebody if you know that you're struggling on a physical, psychological, emotional, spiritual, in any way, and your life isn't working. Then maybe instead of following the love which is guiding you so that you can have the best life possible, maybe you've slipped off and taken a left or right turning, and those turnings have taken you into places where you're unhappy, where you're full of guilt, where you're full of sadness, where you're full of anger, resentment. Maybe it's taken you to a place where you feel inadequate and what's the point in life? Maybe it's taken you to depression and the pity pot. And having been in all those places, maybe you're worried, and fear and worry have taken you over, so you're not able to think rationally. I've been to all of those places, and that's why I can speak to you and say there is hope. Hope is eternal, and faith is about having faith in love and looking at what the person brought to you, celebrating what they brought to you and how wonderful they were, not dwelling on the day and the date when they died and being unhappy all day and then all week and the build up to it, because that's adding suffering, and it's actually, in a way, holding spirit back from being able to come back and guide you as they did when they were alive. This beautiful analogy, I'll try and say it in a way that makes sense, of someone who said there was a little story that all the angels, all the people that had died, all spirit died on this physical plane, were all together, and everyone, there was a candle lighting for each spirit. And God noticed, vibration noticed, energy noticed, goodness noticed, whatever word you want to put, that there was one little child that their candle was continually blotted out. And so curiosity made this presence, love, ask, why is your candle not shining? You're a beautiful spirit, and you know, what's happened? And the child said, I'm not able to shine my light because my loved ones on earth are crying and putting out my light. And I want them to stop crying so that my light can shine and they can see and look at all the beautiful things we did when we were together. Now, however you interpret that, that is a beautiful analogy of every single one of us. There's a big, big light, pure love. And each one has a tiny little, we put our candle to the light and we can take away a little bit of that light. That's our godness, our goodness inside. And that can take us through life if we understand how to then stop letting our own candle internally be dashed out, dampened by the fear within. And so I hope that in some small way that this may have touched you, made you stop and think. And here on Sue's University of Life, there are so many different videos. I guide people with relationships, things that aren't working in your life at the moment. I understand now that I've got the ability to listen when necessary. And all over the world, I'm encouraged when people say, Sue, I came across you on Facebook, Sue's University of Life. I came across you on YouTube. And something about what you said made me listen. And what I heard was something that connected with me and touched me. So if you can hear what I'm saying and something has touched you, then subscribe and follow. Follow what I'm saying, walk beside me, because it's no good expecting somebody else to do the work you have to do. I can guide you, I can support you, I will not be a prop. I speak very honestly from the heart, tough love sometimes, when I see some of the mistakes you're making with the way you talk to yourself, because some people don't like themselves, they hate themselves and hate parts of who they are, their body, their thoughts, and that's not helpful. And that's why I'm encouraged to be writing down about the new language of love, how come to Sue's University of Life and understand the language of love. We have to take some words out of the way we talk to ourselves. We have to undo some of the damage within and create a sense of well-being. Become your own best friend. Accept that you matter, because you do. And then you'll be able to see how you're living your life, how you're doing emotions, how you're doing perceptions. And if that isn't working for you and things aren't okay in your life, then you can take full responsibility and change that if you choose. No one can do it for you. There are lots of people who are ready to support you. I'm one of them, as you make sense of your journey. There are things on my new website comes out next Monday. Next Monday is March the 1st, 2018. And that's the plan. And on there you'll be able to see all of my lives on any media I've used. And there's a little shop where you can purchase things there. My books are on there. My third book will be on there, and I'm going to be writing about this new language, as well as doing courses where you can grow. One-to-one counselling, life coaching, an hour with me, and you will be amazed at how much you will understand about yourself. I don't advise, I don't judge, I listen, I talk from metaphors and experience, and you are the person that makes sense of your world. And that's with careful questions, open-ended questions. And it's safe. Safe to learn who you are, the roles you play, and you will then gain healthier, more intimate relationships on such a different level that you'll look back as I do and think, how on earth did I survive before with that old thinking? I did, and I've learned, and now as my own best friend, emotionally, as a human being, and spiritually, using that pure love. Everything is different within me, and you handle things in a different way. You're mindfully aware. Meditation helps. I can guide you through so many things, as other people can. Excuse me. And so people use excuses. They waste their life. So excuses are what you provide and justify to yourself when you have a health issue, you have weight to lose, and you can't be bothered. You make a reason, an excuse, And then people say, oh no, it's not an excuse, my health and the tablets I'm taking, or in actual fact, you're just making an excuse. And at some level, you're not respecting the beauty and the gift of life. You're not appreciating and understanding who you are, and you're abusing yourself. And we do that via food, drugs, alcohol, work. We do it by all the addictions, and there's so many. And those are some of the things I talk about, priority and importance. And so if you need to do something for your health and you aren't doing it, then I know that ego, your programming, your fear, which needs feeding, is blocking you from a simple truth. You might just be lazy. Lazy is okay. Be lazy enough on something that doesn't matter. Don't be so lazy that you're not going to have a quality of life because you can't be bothered to put the effort in. Of course you can. And whether it's health, whatever it is, if you say, I don't know how to do it, I don't know how to move forward, then let me be the person that can help you. I charge nothing whatsoever for my lives. You have to put the time in, you have to turn up, you have to journal, you have to answer very difficult questions to yourself, own the truth about what you're doing that's not working. And when you're blaming somebody else or judging other people, then it's also going into your self-talk, and you might as well be doing and saying the same thing to yourself. You're capable of doing what everybody else does out there, so am I. We just have a choice and a love that helps us to build a moral integrity, and we learn what our own value system is from a place of love. Does that mean we don't make mistakes? Of course not. Does that mean that we have to then say sorry, sorry, sorry? No, not at all. It means that we've missed the turning, we've veered off the track, and that we need to stop and say, okay, what can I learn from this? How can I turn this around? Learn your lessons and move forward. That means forgiving yourself. You are forgiven. You don't have to keep saying, please forgive me for my sins. I do not see that. You are forgiven, you accept that, and then you say to yourself, I am dysfunctional. That's your behaviour. I can do something about that. And that's when hope arises. And a lot of religions, and most religions, if it's from a place of love, that's where it doesn't matter what box you put yourself in. A lot of religions are fear-based, about power and control. Unfortunately, man-made, not God-given, not God-driven. And I know that people are going to be very upset with what I say, and I can only send them all the love in the world. If they believe that what they believe is right, that means that everybody else is wrong. If you live a life from true love, wanting to face the truth about yourself, to be the best you can be, and you're not throwing darts and arrows at other people, even subtly, then it's okay. If that was the case, let peace be the religion of the world. And as I bring this talk to a close, and I'm always mindful that anything I say will bring questions up in you if you're ready to move forward. If you're ready to challenge, that's okay. I have no control or desire for control over anything you think or say or believe about me. Because you see, I know the truth from a place of love. And that's my invitation to you, to become your own best friend, to readjust and realign anything that's not working. If you're living with resentment, resentment is unacknowledged envy. Envying who? Envy is something we don't like, we're told it's wrong. All untrue. Envy is normal. Admiration is normal. Resentment is unacknowledged envy, and you're envying the power that you've given to other people because you're not living the true life, because you're not living your life from a place of love. So once we begin to understand that, we can sit back, relax, let go of control, surrender, and trust the process. Because the trust and the issues all going around and round in your roundabout, in your head, the program and story of your life, the drama, it's all fear-based, it's all coming from inadequacy, and it's all coming from an unknown source and a belief system, a chatterbox that's telling you that you are not okay. Well, I'm going to tell you once and for all, you are okay. Maybe the light needs to be, we need to clear all the clutter, and then you can see where your light is. You've not got to go and find it, it's already there. You've just got to clear the clutter of the programming and throw some things out that aren't worthy, because it's not true, and then re-establish who you are from a place of love. And my hope for you is that you will consider, think about what has come up for you in this conversation. Doesn't matter what it is, no matter what emotion it is, journal, write it down, write it down, write it down, and ask yourself, is that who I am? Why have I got this feeling? Where's that thought come from? As you begin your journey of awaking from the death. We are the walking dead. We are living a life in ego as though that's who we are. And it really isn't. So let's wake up. Let's make up. And let's begin to do this journey from a place of love. Win-win as spiritual beings in a physical body. And let's just make this earth the place it was meant to be, and a better place than when we came onto it. This is Sue, Sue's University of Life, saying welcome, subscribe, ding the bell, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.